industry itself. So he doesn't require an investment. He basically an introduction. He is well-known personality in franchise industry. He also advised organizations and companies and large investor equity firms. So he is also works with the organizations who are like in merger acquisitions, brands who want to exit from the business or they want to scale up their businesses. The objective of this webinar is he want to share his insights, thoughts, and how you can scale up your business through franchising route. We are also joined with Sonia Chaudhary. So she is the managing director at Franchise India Group, and she has been working with the larger teams. So she works with more than 1,500 people in brand servicing, and she has been in franchise industry for more than 20 years. And in India, she has worked with almost 30,000 brands, and she has developed like 90% of the Indian market industry. So before starting the presentation, I would request Mr. Gaurav Maria just to share his thoughts, his journey, and the learning for our brands or franchises, how they can start their franchise scale up. Gaurav sir, over to you.
Thank you, Ashok. And Ashok is a lead consultant with us, and we have other two young colleagues who have joined in, Ram and Isha, who joined from our head office. They are the ones who are interacting to get people to attend that webinar. Welcome, friends, and welcome to this very special webinar we call Scale Up. And this Sonia and I have been doing both physical and digital editions. Physical, it's a day-long program where we run and explain best practices on franchising and how you can scale your business through franchise. But the digital version is a very short version because that's the way it can be presented only over 30 to 45 minutes. So what is the objective of this webinar? The webinar objective is to introduce you on franchising, introduce you on best practices of franchising, also talk about that is franchising right for your business, your industry, or the stage you are in, because people are in different stage of growth, at what stage they should look at franchising, and how you time yourself. And more importantly, we'll talk about what is the kind of preparation you need to do before you jump into franchising. So I'll give you a little background about myself while Ashok has spoken. I started franchising 27 years back, and I was fortunate enough to work with the best of the best brands, especially in the United States, and worked with them to help them to enter emerging markets, which I still do. Now we do a lot of cross-border franchising, and we are very proud that we are world's largest franchise development companies. Over this journey, I've seen a lot of success stories. All the consultants like me would go and talk about their success stories, but they will not talk about a lot of failures. And I always feel that we should really talk about why these failures happen. Even the best of the large companies sometimes failed in a particular market. And a lot of people who attempt getting into their own franchising without having preparation also fail because they don't have the right systems, processes, what is required to run an efficient system. So franchising, if you really want to go, you need to really you need to ask three things to yourself. First, are you committed for a very long-term strategy? It's not a short-term strategy, because when you sign the first franchisee, you've already committed yourself for many, many years. And it takes a lot of effort to really go through this whole journey with that franchisee. Second thing, you need to really tell yourself that if you want to get into franchise, you will have to move your thinking from what I call in the business to on the business. So now you no more running day-to-day operations of your business. You are moving up the ladder. You're working on the business. You're working on critical things, setting processes, setting systems, and so on and so forth. Third, you need to commit to the journey of really creating the capabilities within your organization to support and evolve your franchisee, because business keep evolving and you need to also evolve as it grows. Look, a lot of businesses, when you start, they were very different to what they are today. And if it is a franchisee run business, it takes even more challenge to really bring them to that evolution, how they would change business model. So that's the journey you need to commit to do that. So I'll now bring in Sonia to give a little overview about Franchise India and FranCop. She will talk about our journey, what we have done, and then we'll start the presentation. And I see now a lot of people have already started joining in, and we take normally 5-7 minutes because I let everybody join in, and it becomes much more interactive as we go along. And there is a Q&A box, friends. You can use that Q&A box and introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. What brings you here? What kind of industry you coming from? And are you already franchising? Write AF. And if you are a new franchisor, write NF. Just two introductions so we know where you're coming from. And if you share your industry, as I'm going to run the presentation, I will give you a lot of examples in your industry. Because as Ashok said, we've done 15,000 brands. So there's enough and more information on specifically for your industry. If you are sharing your industry, use the Q&A box, just introduce yourself so that we get started. In the meantime, Sonia starts introducing Franchise India uh, as a company, what we have done. But it's not just limited to Franchise India. We have international brand called Fran Global, which runs in many markets: Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Dubai, UK, and United States. So let's get started. Over to you, Sonia.
Friends, a very good evening to all of you once again. And like Ashok mentioned, this is the initiative which has been taken by Franchise India along with our group companies, including FranCop, which in fact is the consulting arm of Franchise India, and also Fran Global. And through these companies, which I talked about, we are present in about 97 cities in India. So India is covered, from Jammu to down south. Our presence is outside India in more than 9 countries. And where we work with companies to expand them, grow them, and eventually scale so that they're able to create value through franchising. If you have been following franchising or you have been contemplating to get into a business or expand your business, I'm sure you would know, what kind of value creation franchising brings in. And having said that, today we all talk about startups, companies, and India being the startup capital with so many startups coming across the country. 25% of these startups also which come up every year, they use franchising to scale their business and distribute their product. That's the power of franchising. And the most important part is also to ensure, why a lot of people want to get into it, the preparedness of getting into franchising is very important. Especially for young companies, they have to work even harder because they have to create a market. Right. So before a company decides to get into a business, it is crucial to ensure that we have the required readiness, preparedness, and we also have the necessary foundation in place. And franchising, in fact, is a great way to scale up a business because it allows a company to expand the operations without having to directly fund own expansion. But equally important that we are also giving something to our partners, which is tried, which is tested, because they need to minimize the risk in the investment. And hence, this becomes a very powerful tool for companies and equally, I would say, a very attractive proposition for franchisees or investors to get into it. But it's a very responsible way of raising capital. So the foundation for franchising is always about construction of a business model with sustainability in mind. And the only sustainable business models which should also be, I would say, worked upon from time to time, depending on the stage of the business, depending on the market behavior, and also the timing of your business is something which a lot of companies, mature companies or mature founders or entrepreneurs always consider, because a company needs different set of capabilities, as they move in the life cycle of their business or their brand journey. And the capability, your go-to market from 0 to 1 is very different to capability you need from 1 to 10 and further your journey until 100 and beyond. So at Franchise India, while we work with companies of all size, shapes, from a startup to an enterprise, listed companies, but larger part of our work, the last 27 years have been working with companies, which are largely startup companies who have, a dream of becoming big. And some examples just to give you these companies, I'm sure you all would know, especially all our friends from India and also overseas, the companies like Ferns and Petals. And today this name has become synonymous with flowers, right? A company like natural salon from Chennai. They've been running about 650 salons across India and running overseas. Franchise India started working with them when they were not even names people knew of, and they were running from their small outlets or from home. So that's the journey that we have been through so far. So I'll give you a little background about our company, friends. I'll request whatever you have understanding or little bit on your business that you want to share with us, any website link, please do send that across to us. It will help us understand your business much better, and maybe we can even give you relevant examples of companies that have worked in your industry. So, friends, at the group level, like Gaurav mentioned, we are a 27-year-old enterprise and a very integrated company, completely franchise integrated company at the group level. And we are the largest franchise development and distribution company in the world. So when I say the largest development and distribution company, which means that nobody covers India like us, and globally also there's no company with the plethora of services and I would say validated learning that we have gathered over the years, because we invest a lot of our time, money, and learning to be able to advise on what has done well for companies and where actually a lot of early startups fail. And building entrepreneurship has been largely, I would say, the foundation of our company and the core driver also of Franchise India. And we understand any company who's looking at growing requires some capabilities. And the three most important capabilities is, the business model creation. That being the first. And once you have that, you need to reach out to your potential partners or franchisees. So second capability you require is that of marketing. How do you reach out to your potential profile? How do you filter these profiles? And third is the distribution, which means even if you have inquiries coming out of locations, how do you capture that impact of market? And that's what we understood all these years. So all our group companies address this need through the solutions from our specialized business entities, which give a holistic solution to companies who are looking to grow and eventually scale. And broadly, I would say these fall under four larger business units or platform of Franchise India. And starting with first and foremost is the media business of Franchise India, the media platform of Franchise India, where we run the largest media company in the country, which gives exposure through large exhibitions, about 120 large exhibitions we do every year. And of all the exhibitions we do, we also have another show which is coming up in May. And this show is our flagship show, which is attended by investors and companies, not only in India, but also global markets. About 15 countries come, they participate. We have investors who also come from India and overseas. The second, important is, our print media. We run about 3 publications, and of all the 3 publications, Franchising World is the oldest in the country. And this publication is read by almost every franchisee or a business prospective franchisee who wants to own a business. And our second publication is Entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is, in fact, amongst the top 3 leading B2B publications in the world. It's a company from US. And if anybody of you have subscribed to Entrepreneur or have been following Entrepreneur, you would know all the global franchising companies from McDonald's to Subways, all these companies are rated by Entrepreneur every day. So when you go and check even their offices or their websites or their brochures, they would have an Entrepreneur logo, which is rating these companies. So that company in India and rather entire Asia is owned by Franchise India. And third, this magazine is Retailer. So these are 3 publications that we run. And our website, which is franchiseindia.com. I'll request all of you, if you have not been on the website, please go on the website, franchiseindia.com. Nearly 17,000 companies are listed. And this website interacts with nearly 1 million investors. Now, this is a very big number of investors who, in fact, come on the website, explore opportunities based on their investment interest. And of 100 franchisees we sell, 90 franchisees are almost sold by people exploring opportunities through our media platform. Right? Our second platform is largely for companies like you, which is a scale platform where we work with businesses, brands to make them franchise ready and help them expand their footprint within India and also overseas market. And our third business unit is created for business buyers, because we interact with a huge community of business buyers who are actually looking at businesses from maybe a small opportunity to an HNI investor to family offices to even companies who want to diversify their businesses. They want to acquire international brands. We work with all of them. And this is largely done through our Indian company, Franchise India, and internationally we do it through Fran Global, which is present in about 9 countries. And we have an instrumental also in bringing about 500 companies to Indian market and also markets like Dubai, Bangladesh, and other neighboring countries. And finally, we have a platform also for businesses who want to exit and they want to sell their businesses. They want to find a new buyer for various reasons. It could be the business needs more capital. There is a issue of succession who would succeed the business. So we bring in also buyers who could be financial investors or could also be strategic partners. So broadly, these are 4 platforms of Franchise India. And between our companies, which is, Franchise India, FranCorp, Fran Global, we play a very important role as a catalyst in the entire franchise ecosystem. So we have always believed that our responsibility was also to bring in right companies into franchising, educate companies on growth through responsible franchising, and to help companies to build a sustainable business model. So we'll take the next 15 odd minutes to take you through what it takes, for you to be ready and get into franchising. And I'll request friends, if you have any questions, please do let us know. We'll be happy to take any questions. I saw some of you have also put your company name, and we'll be happy to take any questions. And if you can put that across in the Q&A box or on the chat, I see some communications already started to come in. So let Gaurav lead the next part, and we would follow that with a small presentation of about 3 odd slides that also gives you direction of, how to get started.
Sure. So thank you, Sonia. And friends, if you looking at a journey of franchising, I always say that divide into 4 parts. The first part is really to answer why you want to do that. And there can be different reasons, and it can be all the reasons. It's simply some specific reason. Like, for example, most of the times, early stage businesses, like somebody said, I just started a preschool. We have done 120 preschool brands. And the biggest reason for an early stage startup is capital. So they do franchising because they need capital of growth, and you cannot put your own capital every time. And so franchising is the best form of capital. You don't give your equity at cheap value, and you also don't take debt because cost of capital in this part of the world, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, is very, very high. So franchising becomes a very interesting space for capital. For companies like a large company, like we've handled Tata's and we handle Reliance, they don't do just for the capital. They do it for operational efficiencies, right? How do franchising brings operational efficiency to run and operate a business? Because businesses are local and they're best delivered when if handled by entrepreneurial ability. So it brings in a huge amount of entrepreneurial ability, brings businesses become more efficient. Like, for example, Sonia and I worked on a project with Mother Dairy, which is PSU, which is a large dairy company in India. And they had their own company-owned units, and which were all struggling because there was no efficiency, manpower was not focused. They used to waste a lot of perishable products. And we created and converted those to franchise, and they started performing. So that's another operational efficiency. The third thing people do is speed, because sometimes you have a great idea and business model, and you don't want somebody to copy. Like somebody wrote that they've started a automated restaurant. I feel that the food tech and the food automation is the next big thing. Sometimes you have that capability and you want to really fast scale that. Like in GCC, I'm doing a project in Gulf where it's a completely automated coffee company. So you get a complete full service with all flavors, a great gourmet experience of coffee, but no human. So you can just go there and it delivers coffee with almost under 1 minute. So it's a great coffee experience, great throughput, smaller footprint. It takes a small place. So it's much scalable, but that idea, before it becomes commoditized, they want to scale very, very fast. And another thing which also why people do franchising, especially in India, because India is very diverse and you need a localization. So if I was a company based out of Delhi, I don't understand Chennai and vice versa. So you also do it because you need a local knowledge and capabilities. So first find out of the 4, which is the critical reason for you to look at franchising. You might need all 4, but what is the most critical one? And most of the times it's capital, and which is nothing bad about it, because that's where franchising really has been the most successful tool for bringing capital. So that's stage 1. Stage 2 is your preparation. The preparation I call the triple M rule. The triple M rule means the first M stands for making the business model measurable. Anything and everything you do in your business can be measured. And if it can be measured, it can be transferred. Otherwise, it will not work, right? And this is a mistake a lot of brands do because they get into franchise where they don't even know their own business. They've been successful, but they don't know what works for them, right? What is the cost of acquisition of a customer? What is the cost of servicing a customer? Anything to do with your business, you will have to build it a science around it, and so that it can be duplicated. A second M stands for marketability. Today's people invest on futuristic ideas. They invest on founder story. They invest on the history of the business model which you have run and I think they invest on the competition which is around in the business, how disruptive that idea is. All these pieces, all these dots connect together to make confidence for somebody to invest in your business. And ask yourself, when you go in the market and try to raise money through franchise, you're competing with people who are looking at options of investing into stock market, property, gold, active businesses, running businesses, any other franchise of your competition, your peer-to-peer competition. So many options are there of investment. Why you? And this is one of the specialization franchise India has to make your business so compelling that people want to be investing into the business. And we're very proud that most of the companies come to us at very early stage. We package them right, we put the right structure for them. And I have never believed in just creating a greed story. I never believed in creating projections which are not real. So I believe that if you give people real projections, a real structure, and they love the business, they love the story, they love the future of next 4, 5, 10 years, then they invest with you. And most of the time, people invest on people. So founder story is very important. What is your story? What are you trying to do? Because if you have a right vision to grow, a lot of people would like to join you because they see they are with the right team. The third M stands for manageability. You have to make a business model which can be managed well. So that's the second part of the business. Third part of the business is once you have this, you know why you're doing it. Second is what you need to be making it ready. Then you go to who you need it. Who's your prospect? What profile of people and how do we qualify them for getting their entire thing? I always believe a successful franchise network is all about successful people who work in the network, which means successful franchisee, which means the selection of the franchisee is only single criteria of your success. So it's not sometimes even much harder for you to say no to a lot of people who don't fit into your business. Sonia and I have built a very clear selection criteria, which we call the 4 fits: the strategic fit, the financial fit, the operational fit, and the marketing fit. And we run this a very structured way, and it gets you almost there, right results. And if you know that this is not fitting, it's much better to say politely that this franchise would not work for you, or you are not adequately capitalized to run the business. Because in franchising, all the failures I've seen, 70% of the failures happen because of undercapitalization. The franchisee overestimated or a franchisor overestimated that the business would perform from the first month. That doesn't work. Every business needs gestation. Some business needs even more gestation. Like education business, like somebody was in a preschool. If you start in off season, you might take full 1 year to come back to where it can make sense. So you need to have defined gestations in the businesses, and you need to really see that the franchisee has adequate capital to do that. That's the third part. And then the fourth part would come in where you want to expand. Would you like to do a cluster approach? Should we go and spread thin? So another mistake people do is they just become just opportunists and they go wherever the business is demand is coming, and they have no capabilities to support and handle those businesses. I'm a big believer of creating stronger clusters. And because everything is fragmented, your marketing is fragmented, you need to really find that clusters where you can build the brand equity and support your franchisee. Your operations becomes more difficult to support outside. So always think about why you want to franchise, what you need to be ready with, who is your right prospect, and where we are going to sell the franchise. If you have these 4 answers very clearly ready, and this is one part of our strategy. And strategy, when we do, we really define another 4 blocks. One is defining the overall opportunity. How big is that opportunity and where it is coming from? Second, defining value proposition. What is a strong value proposition we have versus any other competitor. Third is organizational capability. What kind of organizational capability you need to franchise or support your franchisee? And finally is rollout. So this is a very critical part of our business, and all three of us, which is Ashok, Sonia, and me, work very closely with our clients. And rather, we have enough teams for other verticals and businesses. I mean, 1,200 full-time employees work in Franchise India. But this is our passion. This is where we feel if we do justice and create the right business models, they sustain more than other businesses. So let's get started with the presentation. So as Sonia said, short presentation, and I'll try to keep it as crisp as possible. And keep asking your questions on the Q&A box. We'll pick up some questions. So another 15 minutes, we run the presentation. And please put your questions on Q&A box, and I'll be happy to take it. Let's get started. And thank you for joining in some of friends from Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Both markets we have operations. Bangladesh, we just finished a show in January in Dhaka, which was very successful, very strong investor interest, because there is nobody outside Fran Global, which is our company in Bangladesh, which advises on franchising. And we have done a lot of market entry. Some of the more iconic brands, if you're from Bangladesh, like Gloria Jeans Coffees or Sea House, or even earlier Cold Stone Creamery, and many other brands have been brought by us in that market. So I used to go to Bangladesh every 15 days pre-COVID, and post-COVID, we again started in January holding our shows. So we have got a very strong interest on franchising from that market. Okay. So the first question for everyone is that, is franchising for you? You know, is our business or your brand and you yourself are committed to do the journey? Because it's very important. And sometimes you don't have a personality to be a franchisor, because franchising is accommodating a lot of things, right? It is one business owner working with another business owner. And so you need to have a lot of, not that you want to deviate, but you need to have that commitment to relationship, which is very important. And what is the right time? So while there can be many answers, but let's see a few of them. If your product and a service has greater demand in the markets which you currently not servicing. Now, this happens all the time. We get people coming to us and say, I get customers coming all the way from this place to take my product. And so I say it's shame, because you're just addressing some fans who come all the way. Otherwise, people can always like convenience, and they consume within convenience, which means that you're not addressing that market which exists for you. And I can give you so many examples, I mean, which were classic companies, never expanded. They were very close to, they feel that what they've built is not going to be done, and they lost the whole opportunity space. A lot of iconic brands, I mean, we have worked with, which have not grown, and just because either they were scared to grow or lose the brand or things like that, and they lost their larger customer base, which knew them, but never consumed them because they were not available in that market. So if you have an opportunity, the idea for any business is growth. And if the businesses are not growing and they're stagnant, they would eventually die. That's my philosophy of business, and that's what I've seen. I mean, I've seen the greatest of the businesses, if they don't grow, they eventually become non-relevant and they go out of business. Second is your immediate competition has taken a lead, and you also have a great product with you, or maybe better product than your competition, but you're not able to grow further. So this also happens, and it's very painful to see companies which don't have even a product which is as good as yours are able to grow much faster than you are able to grow, because you never took the initiative of getting into franchise. Third, you clearly see growth, but you don't have capital. Now, this is true with almost every successful business, especially early stage business startup. You're successful, you know you've done it, and you're not able to take the business to the next level. And again, that's very important that you step up and start working on that. Even at a later stage, you are able to capitalize through private equity, VC, but the early days of business, if you have a successful business, franchising is a great way to bring you to a critical mass. You know, I know a lot of companies which have eventually been funded by private equity and so on and so forth. But early days, early years of their journey, I know that they survived because they brought franchise money. There's a coffee shop, without putting on a forum, which is now one of the most valued businesses, homegrown. And early days, they were only franchising, while they used to do franchisee-owned, company-operated. And then they got sophisticated capital, and they were able to now do much more direct investments versus franchise. Now even the bigger boys, which doesn't do franchising, are also doing franchising. The McDonald's and all the likes of them, they all are in franchising. They never used to do unit franchising, but at a certain stage, companies, to get the critical size, they need a huge capital, and they would start franchising their business. Operationally, your business is very demanding. A lot of people don't franchise because they feel that, who would manage my business? It's very difficult to manage. If I open up another branch, I'm not able to manage that. And they just stay there. And that's where franchising comes in. You get a partner who brings in operational capability also. I'll give you an example. I was post-COVID, then the COVID started opening up in 2001. I did a talk show with one of the CEOs of a salon company, Unilever company. And I asked him, I said, that time they had about 360 salons. And I asked him, when are you opening up? He says, we're starting to open up next week. Rather than the next week, we'll get 260 salons open up. Now, because the salons were all franchised and they were managed by independent owners, you can restart 260 franchises in 1 week. Imagine it was your direct investment. How would you source people back? Because they're all gone. Because if you had 260 salons shut and you're paying salaries for a year and a half for these people, you're already bankrupt, right? So which means that you would have lost all the people. And when you're starting back, it would have been a nightmare to get that talent back in the system, to get operationally right, get the wear and tear done of the stores, because stores would get 1.5 years if they're closed. They will have a lot of challenges. But because it was a franchisee run, and franchisee had to only manage 8 employees, who manage the local center, which he go and do the basic repairs and start undining, they were able to come back much faster than independent businesses, which were company-owned businesses. So I've realized COVID has taught us that how much importance a local partner brings in the business model, because he brings in a lot of local efficiencies, which are sometimes difficult for the largest of corporates to bring that. It's not just about capital, it's about the last mile fulfillment and logistics, which becomes a very difficult part. Another thing which I love most is you have something like somebody said, I've done an automation in the restaurant business. It's any innovation you do or any other innovation which you have done and you had a first mover. I love those businesses, because those businesses to me have a great story, because people love innovation, they love disruption, they love shifting of a customer base and so on and so forth. So we actually rather find these businesses and work after them. And if your product needs large distribution or economy scale, anything you now need is economy scale, because otherwise becoming very competitive. I think independent isolation businesses would not be able to survive in any industry, because cost of acquisition of customer, the overall brand and marketing, overall capabilities, training, and so on and so forth, cannot be done with single businesses. And that's why these businesses would not be able to survive, and economy of scale would be very critical for you to run and operate businesses, to be competitive, to compete in the marketplace. So if any of these things are happening with you, then you should really consider getting into franchise, and that's what we need to really look at it. Next slide, please. And please, friends, if you have any questions, keep writing on the Q&A box, and we will be happy to take those questions immediately after this. So is your franchise business ready, right? And this is a mistake a lot of people do, because they make themselves self-ready and they make the models which they feel are right. And they don't hire professionals. They don't work with people who have domain knowledge. Sometimes they cut, copy, paste of a competition, which is even worse. I tell everybody that if you just copy from a brand which is ahead of you, and you just copy their program and try to sell that, so you are a poor copy of that. If you are a poor copy of something, why would somebody buy you versus a good copy which is available, right? So it's the biggest mistake you do. It's like I'm running a preschool and I copy the biggest preschool company and just copy that. Why would you invest with me? I'm a startup. Versus why not I should invest with the company which is already number one, has a great brand. So never become the poor copy of something. You need to find your own path. And that's what we do. Rather, I teach my consultants that don't even repeat yourself. Don't even one company to another company. It might come in the same sector, but they're two different stages and two different environments and two different locations and two different capabilities, right? So how do we design business models which fit their demand? And that's very, very important part of it. So I have just listed about 18 things which you need to do and regroup them into about 6 blocks. And some you can tell yourself that you're ready, and some you need to make yourself ready. Like, for example, the first is, how is your brand? What is your happening with your brand? What is your brand preference and engagement? How it is engaging with potential investors, your stakeholders, your employees, your end customers, your vendors, your suppliers. What is happening on your brand story? That's very, very important. What kind of credibility you enjoy? And it's not that you have to be a very large company to have credibility. You can be a very successful business in your own neighborhood, and you have a strong credibility. How's your PR? What is your social media strategy? What kind of awards, recognition you've got? This all helps to really open up a discussion point, because this gives an opportunity for somebody to say, this is a company I want to look at it. Then you have to do what I call proven business systems and processes. Friends, the single most thing which makes people get ready to invest in your business, unfortunately, it is not ROI. People think it is ROI, return on investment, but unfortunately, it is not ROI. It is ease of doing business. If I get into business and I feel I can do it and I can run it and it has all the system to support me, I will like to invest in the business. I've sold more business than anybody else in the world. And I can tell you with authority, people bought businesses the most with a lesser ROI because they were easy to do business. It was simple, straightforward. You can manage it. You can easily handle it. And you became confident that I can handle that business. Complex businesses, people shy away. They don't want to invest into that, right? We all know you cannot go wrong with healthcare. Running a hospital or a clinic is never going to go out of, because we have more population and we have issues, lifestyle diseases, a lot of things are growing. Everything in almost healthcare is an issue, and it is growing linear, but people still are scared to invest into the businesses because they're complex. It's complex to manage a healthcare business, right? So how do we work with clients to simplify their businesses, make them easy to look like, and where people can invest? So what is your prototype? What are your SOPs, manuals, strong vendor relationships? All that is very, very important to run. Then comes financial performance and margins. This is not easy. A lot of people claim that they make financial models, but they don't understand to balance risk and reward. They don't understand the balance, right? And I can tell you, it's very different of investment in passive mindset to an active mindset. When you active invest, then you look at three things, three ROIs. You look at return on investment, return on involvement, and return on intelligence. It can be also return on property. So a lot of returns people see in terms of what they bring on the table. How your business model is going to accommodate that, right? And future for franchising would be that people would buy themselves a job, which means that I would work in my business and I would be paid by my business, my salary also. So which means if that is going to happen, so he's expecting a salary from the business, he's expecting return from the business. If he's bringing something more, he's expecting that also. And if he's bringing his own property, he wants return on property, right? So how do I design business models, understand their financial guidelines, projections, sensitivity analysis? A lot of that has to be done. Otherwise, it disappoints when they start the business, because it's away from what they thought the business is, and they're disappointed by what you had said. It causes a relationship problem. Then how is your management structure being done, or all overall organizational design? Your organizational design, your key management team, your founder's story, all that is also very, very important. Then what is your competition and market trends? Is the market industry crowded? or it's a quite open market. Both has own challenges. When you go open market, there is a little bit of risk which investor sees. Would it work? Would it not work? Like I'm advising one sustainable food company. Now, when I present that to somebody, it says, "Oh, no, 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 who goes and eats sustainable food is more a talk than a reality." Uh, but we all know that we will have to go. This planet has to go sustainable, right? Cannot go in other direction. While we all understand that, but at this stage, investor sees risk because in a short term it might not be an opportunity, but in long term there is a human change which has to come. Everything, the food, sustainable food would become a phenomenal opportunity. So you need to understand your industry, your disruption in the industry, what is key trends in the industry, what is the key trends in the mature markets, and how this all thing is shifting. And last is product and service, how innovation, R&D, differentiation of your product offering, the price, experience, and the change cycle would work. All these pieces we design and bring it together. Because if we are able to bring this together and build a story which looks compelling and somebody is able to see a value in that, then it becomes much easier for somebody to invest with you. Next slide. And so I keep seeing any questions you have, then we can pick it up. Okay, now this is the third slide, and just another 10 minutes, we will be over with the webinar. So when we start working with you, we always put two pieces to the business. One is innovation and performance. These are two joint blocks. I need to continue to paddle on innovation, my business model, and innovation should flow the entire network. And second side, I need to keep eye on performance, because it's a one franchisee by franchisee performance. It's not averaging out, because for that franchisee, it's only that business. And we need to really see that we can able to bring the unit economics in a manner that the performance of each franchisee is monitored. So we call the PASS. PASS means how do you bring predictability to your business model? And this needs financial performance which can be measured, right? It's very easy to say, but very difficult to attain. How do you able to manage and predict? Today, over the experience, if you ask any of my team member and say, I give you 3 heads, which means I tell you my size of the location, I tell you, my ticket value, and I tell you one more facts, I'll tell you the sales. So we build science. I can tell you, if you give me some answers, few facts, I can give you what it would predict. And that's something which we have done over the time. We have comparative data, we understand all the answers on that. So sometimes it is as perfect that people get surprised that how do you know my sales when I have never told you my sales? Because it's actually sales and output of what you're putting in, right? And if I know that, I can predict this part, right? It's very, very predictable, especially in retail. It has a throughput, and every retail has a certain throughput level, and which we can able to predict that. So how do you really bring that predictability? Because that would become a strong foundation for you to design your business model and be able to guide your franchisee in their journey. Accountability is very important in franchising. How you make your franchisees accountable for everything you want them to do. And you're also accountable to them. Standardization. You need to make it sound sometimes wrong, because we are bringing entrepreneurs who want to work in the business, but I want to still make the business idiot proof. People don't like to hear this word, but that's why you're buying franchise, because you're buying a franchise because you don't want to reinvent everything. But you want to bring your entrepreneurial capabilities to grow business, and but no innovation is required, or I would say unwanted innovation, which is just what some people have crazy ideas to change the business, change this model, and so on and so forth. Like I was sitting on a deal, and I saw this franchisor and franchisee talking, and it looked like to me in 2 hours of discussion, they changed 60% of business model. So franchisor was almost agreeing on everything, change the menu, change this, change that. And this franchisee was going by his own personal assumptions without having no knowledge on data, and they killed the business. right? So, I mean, this is a big company. It's a large American pizza chain, and they opened up in Gujarat a vegetarian restaurant. Nobody expects American company, global chain, coming to Gujarat first to most competitive pizza market in the country and open up a pure vegetarian restaurant. While it's all said, but if my model was not that, and I had to change 70% of my business model, then why franchise? And why not go to any other market? Why would you even if everybody said everybody in Gujarat is vegetarian, which is not true, then also why would I go to Gujarat? Why would I not go to entire thing? You can refuse to enter a market which doesn't accept your as a current product. So, and finally, scalability. How do you really create scalability? How do you understand which market you want to do? Then you go to triple C, which is controls, compliance, and consumer connect. How do we bring stronger controls, huge amount of compliance, and own the customer? That's very important. Imagine a company, oil station company, right? These all big oil companies, Shell in India, it's called Indian Oil, and so on and so forth. How foolish they were for many, many years selling fuel where they didn't know who they sold to, what they used for, which car they come in. They had no data. And today we are in the data world, right? It's a business intelligence. And look at the new tech companies, they know everything. When you buy from Amazon, they know everything about you. What time you ordered, what you buy, how frequent you buy, everything about you. So they are able to position it very right and analytically. And these old school companies had no information about who they're selling to. So when you design business model, you need to own the customer. As a brand, I need to own the customer. That's very, very important. Then we get to the third block, which is the air. How we make business model attractive enough that people invest. This is where we champion. Fran Global and Franchise India has a huge capability to design a business models which attract right investors. Second, how we make it investor ready in both in short-term and long-term performance. And then last is his scratching. How do I demonstrate that we have worked hard to reduce their risk? It's not saying I will eliminate risk, but I have worked hard to predictably define what can be the risk and how we reduce that. And then finally, we work with creating what I call the ERR program, how we encourage franchisee, how we recognize franchisee, and how we reward every single franchise. Because post a certain level, it is only the motivation for a business entrepreneur to be excited to be part of something, right? They are excited to be part of something. They're thankful for be part of something. And this is where iconic brands are born. So franchising is a careful organizational design to attract ongoing investments and build sustainability in the network. Two things: continue to attract capital and build sustainability in the business model. So friends, this is what is, while we have presented just the scratch on the surface, it's just about upper things, but these all strategies go into a detailed workshops, 3-month full-blown consulting, where we work with you to build a sustainable models for you. Next slide, please. So what we do at both at Franchise India and Fran Global. So we work on strong advisory. Advisory is further divided into strategy, financial modeling, operating guidelines, legal, marketing, communication, training, all 6 modules run by 6 specialists who work with you. And I can tell you globally, there is no organization which would say we will have all 6 under one roof and all specialized. So the person who writes your strategy comes from domain experience. Somebody who writes your financial comes from financial experience. Somebody who writes operating manuals has SOPs and all the formats to do. It's very complex to write it. We have full-time lawyers in our system which run the legal documentation, and we have marketing, communication, brand studio, and a training team. So all that is the first part. The second part is how do we create your brand and a PR strategy? How we really create that vibe about your business. And then we champion on lead generation. We do a strong lead generation, all platforms. As Sonia said, we have our own platforms. We have our own shows. We do 200 franchise shows. So we present you from these shows. We just finished a show in Bangladesh. We're planning to do a show in Sri Lanka, and a lot of places. We're doing a show in Abu Dhabi, which happens on 22nd. So these are big franchise shows. And I will also like to invite all of you. Our 20th year of show is happening on 18th and 19th in Delhi, May 18th and 19th, which is a flagship show where you see almost 1,000 companies and 45,000 investors. Then we have lead management, which is very critical, how you qualify people. And finally, how you really do the franchise selection. And I'm a big believer. I've always said that selection over sales is franchising. It's not sales, it's selection. Some of the things, it's always about selection. It's like running a school where you get bright kids, and these bright kids produce great results. And because great results are there, you attract even more brighter kids, right? Because they want to be part of that cycle. So it's A gets A, and not the other way around, right? So you have to understand how you do it. If you get the first 5 franchisees top class, then they perform, you attract another 25 even more smarter. So that's how the intelligent companies build their franchise programs. So this is what, now you can remove the slides. So this is what we wanted to present. I overshot a little time because it was supposed to be 45 minutes, but we did almost, more. I can read a few things. How to take a brand global in premium disruptor to one or dominant market, and say, absolutely, Mr. Ghoshal, we will love to work with you. I don't know if Ram and Isha, whoever was in touch with you, would set my call with you. What you have written, I really liked, and I like to have a call with you, maybe tomorrow itself or day after, depending on both of our diaries and calendars available. But I like what you're doing, and I'm in 9 markets, and we will love to see if we can work with you to take it to different markets. And somebody says, manufacturing company of electric products and panels and distribution. Yes, we have worked with a lot of companies which are OEMs or also independent manufacturers, and so we'll understand your business model, understand your competitive advantage, and how we can do that. Even in manufacturing, a lot of franchising happens, and we have worked from bottling water plants to packaging businesses to a flour factory to so many businesses we have done. OEMs obviously is easier to do license and franchise, because if you are producing for large companies, ITC, Britannia, Parle, and so on and so forth, it becomes an easier franchise. Even the biggest manufacturing and distribution franchise is Coca-Cola. So actually, Coca-Cola is a total franchise business, globally it runs at. So Isha and Ram, if you can put your numbers on the block so people can get in touch. After this webinar, they would send you a formal thank you mail and also invite you for a discussion. But you have to still first validate. Idea for me and Sonia to spend time on this webinar is to share what we've learned over the years. This industry has given us so much, and we feel that we have now responsibility to give back the industry the knowledge we have built in. And this is, we do it on these short webinars, we do it on full workshop, and we do a lot of one-to-one discussion. I call that Discovery Day, where you discover franchising with us, and there is no obligation for that. Whatever I can guide you through in terms of the right knowledge and capability, we do that. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time today, and we really appreciate you taking time out, and we look forward to talking to some of you. Over to you, Sonia, for your last words.
Great. I think it was a great session, friends. Thank you for all your comments. And I think while you were putting your websites, I got a chance to also go through some of the information that you shared with us. And we look forward to connecting with you in person or virtually over a call. But we would need more information so that we can make our calls more productive. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so